The lights on the bridge of the U.S. horizon dimmed as Captain Jack Hayes stared at the vast emptiness of space through the main view screen. The exploration vessel had been mapping this sector for 3 weeks now, and the crew was getting restless. They were far from home, farther than any human ship had ventured before. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Olivia Grant, her fingers moving quickly across her communications console. Her brow furrowed as she adjusted settings, trying to clean up the signal. "It's faint, but it seems to be a distress call." Hayes stood up from his chair and walked over to her station. "Can you locate the source?" "It's coming from the fourth moon of that gas giant in the nearby system," Olivia replied, pointing to a blinking dot on her screen. "The signal is using no language pattern I recognize." First Officer Daniel Ross approached with caution in his eyes. "Captain, we should report this back to Earth Command before proceeding. Our mission is to map, not to engage with potential alien life." Hayes considered his words but shook his head. "Someone needs help, Daniel. By the time we get approval, it might be too late. Plot a course for that moon." "Yes, sir," replied the navigator, a young man named Pete Johnson, as his hands moved across the controls. The U.S. horizon changed direction, its engines humming with power as it headed toward the unknown signal. The journey took 6 hours, during which the crew prepared for their first possible alien encounter. Medical Officer Dr. Samantha Wright gathered her equipment, not knowing what she might face but ready for anything. As they approached the moon, they saw it was small and rocky with a thin atmosphere. And there, on its surface, they spotted the source of the distress signal, a crashed ship of unusual design, clearly not of human origin. "Scan for life signs," Hayes ordered. The science officer, Linda Moore, studied her readings with wide eyes. "I'm detecting one life form, sir. Very weak. It appears to be in the main cabin section of the vessel." Hayes made his decision quickly. "Prepare a landing party. Dr. Wright, you're with me. Ross, you have the bridge." 20 minutes later, Hayes led a team of 6 onto the surface of the alien moon. They wore environment suits as they approached the crashed vessel. It was unlike anything humans had designed, smooth and curved with what looked like crystalline components integrated into its hull. "The air inside appears breathable," said Security Officer Eric Collins, checking his scanner. "But I recommend keeping suits on until we know more." They found a way in through a tear in the ship's side. Inside, the lighting was dim and flickering. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the technology was clearly advanced beyond human understanding. "This way," Dr. Wright said, following her medical scanner. "The life sign is getting weaker." In what seemed to be the ship's control room, they found the survivor. It was small, about the size of a human child, with blue-tinted skin and large, oval eyes currently closed. It lay trapped under a fallen piece of equipment, breathing in short, labored gasps. "Help me lift this," Hayes ordered, and together with Collins, they freed the alien child. Dr. Wright immediately began scanning the small body. "It's badly injured. The anatomy is fascinating. It appears to have 3 separate organs that function like hearts, but 2 of them are severely damaged." "Can you help it?" Hayes asked. "I don't know its biology, but I can try to stabilize it," she replied, already opening her medical kit. "We need to get it back to the ship." As they carefully moved the alien child onto a stretcher, a loud sound caught their attention. Hayes looked up through the broken hull of the crashed ship to see a bright light in the sky. Another ship, much larger, entering the moon's orbit. "We've got company," Collins warned, checking his scanner. "And they're not broadcasting friendly signals." Hayes made a quick decision. Get the child to our shuttle. Now. As they hurried back with their fragile cargo, none of them realized that this moment would forever change the course of human history. They had just found themselves in the middle of a conflict that spanned galaxies, and their compassion for a dying alien child was about to challenge everything an ancient civilization believed about humanity. The lights on the bridge of the U.S. horizon dimmed as Captain Jack Hayes stared at the vast emptiness of space through the main view screen. The exploration vessel had been mapping this sector for 3 weeks now, and the crew was getting restless. They were far from home, farther than any human ship had ventured before. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Olivia Grant, her fingers moving quickly across her communications console. Her brow furrowed as she adjusted settings, trying to clean up the signal. "It's faint, but it seems to be a distress call." Hayes stood up from his chair and walked over to her station. "Can you locate the source?" "It's coming from the fourth moon of that gas giant in the nearby system," Olivia replied, pointing to a blinking dot on her screen. "The signal is using no language pattern I recognize." First Officer Daniel Ross approached with caution in his eyes. "Captain, we should report this back to Earth Command before proceeding. Our mission is to map, not to engage with potential alien life." Hayes considered his words but shook his head. "Someone needs help, Daniel. By the time we get approval, it might be too late. Plot a course for that moon." "Yes, sir," replied the navigator, a young man named Pete Johnson, as his hands moved across the controls. The U.S. horizon changed direction, its engines humming with power as it headed toward the unknown signal. The journey took 6 hours, during which the crew prepared for their first possible alien encounter. Medical Officer Dr. Samantha Wright gathered her equipment, not knowing what she might face but ready for anything. As they approached the moon, they saw it was small and rocky with a thin atmosphere. And there, on its surface, they spotted the source of the distress signal, a crashed ship of unusual design, clearly not of human origin. "Scan for life signs," Hayes ordered. The science officer, Linda Moore, studied her readings with wide eyes. "I'm detecting one life form, sir. Very weak. It appears to be in the main cabin section of the vessel." Hayes made his decision quickly. "Prepare a landing party. Dr. Wright, you're with me. Ross, you have the bridge." 20 minutes later, Hayes led a team of 6 onto the surface of the alien moon. They wore environment suits as they approached the crashed vessel. It was unlike anything humans had designed, smooth and curved with what looked like crystalline components integrated into its hull. "The air inside appears breathable," said Security Officer Eric Collins, checking his scanner. "But I recommend keeping suits on until we know more." They found a way in through a tear in the ship's side. Inside, the lighting was dim and flickering. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the technology was clearly advanced beyond human understanding. "This way," Dr. Wright said, following her medical scanner. "The life sign is getting weaker." In what seemed to be the ship's control room, they found the survivor. It was small, about the size of a human child, with blue-tinted skin and large, oval eyes currently closed. It lay trapped under a fallen piece of equipment, breathing in short, labored gasps. "Help me lift this," Hayes ordered, and together with Collins, they freed the alien child. Dr. Wright immediately began scanning the small body. "It's badly injured. The anatomy is fascinating. It appears to have 3 separate organs that function like hearts, but 2 of them are severely damaged." "Can you help it?" Hayes asked. "I don't know its biology, but I can try to stabilize it," she replied, already opening her medical kit. "We need to get it back to the ship." As they carefully moved the alien child onto a stretcher, a loud sound caught their attention. Hayes looked up through the broken hull of the crashed ship to see a bright light in the sky. Another ship, much larger, entering the moon's orbit. "We've got company," Collins warned, checking his scanner. "And they're not broadcasting friendly signals." Hayes made a quick decision. Get the child to our shuttle. Now. As they hurried back with their fragile cargo, none of them realized that this moment would forever change the course of human history. They had just found themselves in the middle of a conflict that spanned galaxies, and their compassion for a dying alien child was about to challenge everything an ancient civilization believed about humanity. The medical bay of the U.S. horizon buzzed with activity as Dr. Samantha Wright worked to save the alien child. Monitors beeped with unfamiliar patterns, tracking the strange three-heart system that kept the small blue-skinned being alive. "Two of the hearts are failing," Dr. Wright said to Captain Hayes, who stood watching with concern. "The third is struggling to keep up." "Do what you can," Hayes replied. "This might be our first contact with an alien species. We can't let it die." Dr. Wright nodded and turned to her assistant, Nurse Ben Kelly. "We need to stabilize those hearts or find a way to help the third one carry the load." Up on the bridge, Olivia Grant monitored the approaching alien ship. "Captain, they're trying to contact us. The language is unlike anything I've heard, but our translation software is working on it." "Put it through when you're ready," Hayes said through the ship's communication system. Minutes later, as Dr. Wright prepared for surgery, the alien vessel hailed them again. This time, the translation came through, broken but understandable. "Human ship, you have our child. Return immediately. You cannot help. You are heartless." Hayes frowned. "This is Captain Jack Hayes of the Earth vessel U.S. Horizon. We found a survivor in a crashed ship. The child is badly injured. We're trying to help." There was a pause before the alien responded. "Humans cannot help. You have one heart. We have three. Return our child, or we will attack." Olivia looked at Hayes, confused. "Sir, I think they're referring to our actual hearts, like the organ." Hayes raised his eyebrows. "They think we're heartless because we only have one heart." Down in the medical bay, Dr. Wright had made a discovery. "The third heart is stronger than the others," she told Hayes over the comm. "If I remove the two damaged hearts and modify the circulatory system, the child might survive with just one, like humans do." "The aliens seem to think having three hearts makes them superior," Hayes explained. "They're threatening us because they think we can't help." Dr. Wright considered this. "Maybe we should show them what we're doing. Let them see that having one heart doesn't make you heartless." Hayes agreed and authorized a video feed to be sent to the alien ship. Meanwhile, Security Officer Eric Collins prepared the ship's defenses, just in case. "Their ship has weapons powered up," Collins warned. "They could attack at any moment." "Keep calm," Hayes ordered. "Let's show them we mean no harm." In the medical bay, Dr. Wright began the delicate surgery. Her movements were precise as she worked to save the child, whom the crew had started calling Nova. "The first damaged heart is removed," she announced for the benefit of both her team and the watching aliens. "We're rerouting the blood vessels to the healthy heart." On the alien ship, Commander Zek Val watched the procedure with a mixture of horror and fascination. In Veridum culture, the hearts were sacred. To remove even one was unthinkable. Yet these single-hearted humans were attempting to save the child by making it more like them. "They are butchering the child," one of his officers said with disgust. "Wait," Zek Val replied, watching closely. "Their technique is careful, precise." Back on the horizon, Dr. Wright removed the second failing heart and began the complex work of strengthening the remaining one. Nova's vital signs, which had been fading, began to stabilize. "It's working," Nurse Kelly said with amazement. In space, the standoff continued. Two more Veridan ships arrived, surrounding the human vessel. They watched the surgery with growing interest, rather than attacking as threatened. Hayes stood on his bridge, aware that his ship was outgunned but unwilling to stop the procedure that might save the child's life. "Captain," Olivia called out, "they're sending a new message." The translated voice of Zek Val came through the speakers. "Your doctor. She does things we thought impossible. Perhaps we judged too quickly. We will wait for the procedure to finish before deciding your fate." Hayes exhaled slowly. It wasn't quite peace, but it was a start. In the medical bay, Dr. Wright continued her work, unaware that she was not just saving one life, but possibly preventing a war between two species who had only just met. 3 days passed since the surgery, and Nova was showing signs of recovery. The small alien child lay in the medical bay, connected to machines that monitored the now single-functioning heart. Dr. Wright checked the readings and smiled with satisfaction. "The modified heart is working well," she told Captain Hayes. "It's adapting to handle a full blood flow, just like our human hearts do." Hayes nodded, relief clear on his face. "And our guests." Outside the U.S. horizon, 3 Veridan ships now floated in space, watching the human vessel closely. Their weapons were no longer aimed at the humans, but tension remained high. In a bold move, Hayes had invited Commander Zekwal to send 2 representatives aboard to see Nova. The aliens stood across the room now, their tall blue forms rigid with concern as they observed the child. "The child lives with one heart," said the female Veridan, who had introduced herself as Healer Tyaven. Her voice was musical, but filled with disbelief. "How is this possible?" "One strong heart can be enough," Dr. Wright explained. "Human bodies evolved with a single heart that adapts to our needs." The second Veridan, a military officer named Colmar, made a dismissive sound. "But how do you feel?" "In our culture, each heart serves a purpose, one for physical life, one for emotional depth, and one for spiritual connection." Hayes exchanged a glance with Dr. Wright. This explained the Heartless comment. The Veridan truly believe humans must be emotionally and spiritually empty. "We feel deeply with our one heart," Hayes said simply. "Love, compassion, fear, hope, all from one source." In another part of the ship, Olivia Grant spent time with Nova when the child was awake. Nova was learning English quickly, and Olivia was picking up Veridan words too. "Why did you help me?" Nova asked during one of these sessions, voice weak but curious. "Because you needed help," Olivia answered. "That's what humans do." Nova seemed confused. "But Veridan teachings say humans are dangerous, that you fight wars and destroy your planet, that you have only one heart, so you cannot truly care for others." Olivia smiled sadly. "We've made mistakes as a species, but we learn and grow. And having one heart doesn't stop us from caring." She pointed to the small medallion Nova wore around the neck. "What's this?" "Family symbol," Nova explained. "It shows my 3 heart lines. Now I have one, like humans." "Am I heartless too?" "No," Olivia said firmly. "You're still you, just like we're still us, even with one heart." Meanwhile, tension grew on the bridge as more Veridan ships arrived. There were 7 now, surrounding the lone human vessel. "They're sending a message," Pete Johnson announced from his station. "It's from someone called High Elder Kartal." "Put it through," Hayes ordered, returning to the bridge. The view screen showed an older Veridan with pale blue skin, Captain Hayes of Earth. "I am High Elder Kartal of the Veridan Council. We have observed your treatment of the child. Our people are divided on how to proceed." "We mean no harm," Hayes replied. "We only wanted to help." "Yet you removed 2 sacred hearts," Kartal said. "Some see this as an attack on our very being. Others see it as necessary to save a life. I wish to come aboard and see for myself." Hayes straightened his uniform. "You're welcome aboard, High Elder." After the communication ended, Daniel Ross approached his captain. "Sir, if they decide we've harmed the child, we're outnumbered and outgunned." "I know," Hayes replied. "But they need to understand us, just as we need to understand them. Fear and misunderstanding lead to conflict. And right now, a child who shouldn't be alive is our best ambassador." As preparations began for the High Elder's arrival, Nova sat up in bed for the first time since the surgery. The child placed a hand over the spot where a single heart now beat and looked at Olivia with large, wondering eyes. "My people will fear me now," Nova whispered. "One heart, like humans." "Maybe you'll help them see that one heart can be enough," Olivia said, gently holding the child's hand. Sometimes the strongest things are the simplest. The arrival of High Elder Kartal caused a stir aboard the U.S. Horizon. The Elder Veridan moved with slow grace, flanked by 4 guards with serious faces. Captain Hayes met them in the ship's main conference room, along with Dr. Wright and First Officer Ross. "Thank you for allowing this visit," Kartal said. His voice was deep and measured. "For thousands of years, we have watched your planet from afar. We saw your wars, your struggles. We believed beings with only one heart must be limited in their capacity for compassion." Hayes kept his expression neutral. "We would like to show you the child." They walked together to the medical bay where Nova was sitting up in bed, talking quietly with Olivia. The child's eyes widened at the sight of the High Elder, and Nova tried to stand in respect. "Stay seated, young one," Kartal said gently. "I understand you have been through much." Nova nodded. "The humans saved me when my hearts were failing. Now I have one strong heart instead of 3 weak ones." Kartal approached and placed a hand on Nova's chest, feeling the steady beat of the single heart. He closed his eyes as if in deep thought. "May I speak with your doctor?" he asked after a moment. Dr. Wright stepped forward and explained the procedure in simple terms, showing scans of Nova's body before and after the surgery. "The third heart was always stronger than the others," she said. "We built upon that strength and modified the circulatory system. It was the only way to save Nova's life." As they talked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Hayes rushed to the nearest communication panel. "Captain to bridge. What's happening?" "Sir," came Colin's urgent voice. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships entering the system. They're not Veridan. They're moving fast and not responding to hails." The High Elder's expression darkened. "Drax," he said, the words sounding like a curse. "They are why our scout ship was in this system. They have been expanding into our territory, taking resources, and leaving nothing behind." Hayes looked to Ross. "Battle stations. Prepare defensive measures." The High Elder watched this with interest. "You would defend yourselves against a superior force." "We would try," Hayes answered honestly. Kartal nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have misunderstood much about humans." Back in the medical bay, Nova became agitated as the alarms continued. "The Drax are why my ship crashed. They attacked us without warning." Olivia tried to keep the child calm. "You're safe here. We won't let anything happen to you." On the bridge, Hayes and Ross joined Collins at the tactical station. The incoming ships were moving in an organized pattern, 15 vessels of various sizes approaching from multiple directions. "The Veridan ships are moving into defensive positions around us," Collins reported with surprise. The communications panel lit up with an incoming transmission from Commander Zekval. "Captain Hayes, the Drax are a common enemy. We will stand together in this moment." Hayes nodded with gratitude. "Thank you, Commander." The first shots were fired minutes later. Bright energy beams from the lead Drax vessel targeting one of the Veridan ships. The battle had begun. On the observation deck, High Elder Kartal stood with Dr. Wright, watching the space battle unfold. "Our people have fought the Drax for decades," he said quietly. "They see all other life as resources to be harvested. They take what they want and destroy what remains." "Is there no way to communicate with them?" Dr. Wright asked. "They do not see us as worthy of communication," Kartal replied. "To them, we are simply in their way." The U.S. horizon shook as it took a glancing hit from a Drax weapon. Lights flickered throughout the ship. In the medical bay, Nova grabbed Olivia's hand. "The Drax believe having many ships makes them stronger. But maybe, like hearts, it's not about how many you have, but how you use what you have." Olivia looked at the child with surprise. "That's very wise, Nova." "I learned it from you," Nova replied. "From humans." As the battle intensified outside, Captain Hayes realized his exploration vessel was not built for this kind of fight. But between the Veridan's advanced technology and the humans' unpredictable tactics, they might have a chance. "We need to try something they won't expect," Hayes said to his crew. Something only single-hearted, supposedly heartless humans would think of. The temporary victory against the Dracs brought a moment of calm. Captain Hayes invited Commander Zekval and High Elder Kartal to meet in the conference room to discuss their next steps. Nova insisted on joining them, despite Dr. Reich's concerns about the child's health. The Dracs will return, Zekval stated flatly. They always do. They will bring more ships next time. Hayes nodded. Then we need a better plan than hiding in a gas giant's magnetic field. High Elder Kartal studied the human captain with new interest. Your deception worked well, but it cannot work twice. The Dracs learn quickly from their mistakes. We need to understand what they want, Hayes said. Every enemy has a goal. Nova spoke up, voice still weak but determined. They want resources. My parents were scientists studying a rare mineral on that moon. The Dracs attacked without warning. All eyes turned to the child. Hayes asked gently, "What kind of mineral?" "We call it life stone," Nova explained. "It powers our ships and cities. The Dracs use it too, but differently. They burn it quickly for more power." Olivia, who had been quietly observing, leaned forward. Like the difference between sustainable energy and fossil fuels on Earth. Chief Engineer Parker had joined the meeting and was typing on a datapad. The crashed Veridan ship's power system used a crystal-based energy source. It's still partially active even after the crash. Extremely efficient. Hayes turned to Zekval. How much of this life stone do the Dracs already control? The commander's expression darkened. Too much. They have taken 7 mining worlds in the past year alone. And they want more, Hayes concluded. He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. We can't outfight them, and we can't outrun them forever. So what do humans do in such situations? Kartal asked with genuine curiosity. Hayes turned back to the group. We look for leverage, something they need that we can control. In the following hours, the humans and Veridan worked together to analyze the Drac ship's attack patterns. Parker discovered something interesting while studying sensor readings from the battle. Their weapons use enormous amounts of energy, he explained to Hayes. But after each major blast, there's a power fluctuation, as if they're struggling to maintain consistent output. Hayes called Collins to verify this finding. The tactical officer nodded eagerly. He's right, Captain. The Drac ships fire intensely, but then have a 3-second recovery period. If we could extend that recovery time somehow. Nova, who had refused to return to the medical bay, sat nearby listening. The life stone needs to be pure to work properly. My parents said the Dracs don't refine it enough. That's why they use so much. Hayes looked at the child with new appreciation. And that's why they're always seeking more. They're inefficient. Zekval joined the conversation. We could use this weakness, but how? They will return with more ships than we can handle. Hayes smiled slightly. We don't need to handle all their ships. We just need to make them think twice about attacking. He turned to Parker. Could we create a feedback pulse that disrupts their energy systems when they fire? The engineer thought for a moment. Possibly. If we calibrate it to the exact frequency of their weapons discharge. And if we combine human and Veridan technology, Hayes suggested, looking at Zekval. The Veridan commander hesitated, then nodded slowly. Our deflector technology might be adapted. For the first time, a real collaboration began. Veridan engineers came aboard the Horizon, working alongside the human crew. Their initial distrust gave way to professional curiosity, then genuine respect as they shared ideas. Nova moved between the groups, translating concepts that got lost between their different scientific approaches. The child's single heart beat strongly now, a living bridge between two species. On the observation deck, High Elder Kartal stood with Dr. Wright, watching the gas giant's swirling clouds. For centuries, we believed humans were dangerous because of your history of conflict, the elder said softly. We never considered that this same trait might make you valuable allies against a true enemy. Dr. Wright smiled. Humans have fought each other, it's true. But we've also learned that our greatest achievements come when we work together. Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's alarm. The Drax had returned, and they had brought reinforcements. The Drax returned with 25 ships, nearly twice their previous number. They spread out in a half-circle formation, blocking the escape route back to Earth. On the bridge of the U.S. horizon, Captain Hayes watched the tactical display with a grim expression. "Are the modifications ready?" he asked Parker over the comm system. "Almost," the chief engineer replied. His voice was strained. "The Veridan technology is complex. We're having trouble making it work with our systems." Hayes nodded to Collins. "Buy us some time." Evasive maneuvers. The U.S. horizon moved quickly, darting between the larger Veridan ships as they formed a protective barrier. The Drax opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up space with bright red beams. "Shields at 80%, Ross reported as the ship shook from a glancing hit. In engineering, Parker worked frantically alongside 3 Veridan technicians. They had connected a Veridan deflector array to the Horizon's main power system, creating what they hoped would be a weapon against the Drax energy systems. "The frequencies aren't aligning," said Kellenar, the lead Veridan engineer. "Our technology was not designed to work with yours." Nova sat nearby, watching intently. "You're both thinking too much with your heads and not enough with your hearts," the child said suddenly. Parker looked up in surprise. "What do you mean?" "Veridan technology works in threes, like our hearts," Nova explained. "Human technology works in ones. You're trying to make them the same, but they're not. They need to work together while staying different." Parker stared at the child, then back at the system. "The kid's right. We're trying to force them to be compatible when we should be creating a bridge between them." He turned to Kellenar. "Let's try a different approach." On the bridge, the situation was growing desperate. 2 Veridan ships had already been disabled, and the Drax were pressing their advantage. "Captain," Hayes heard Zekval's voice over the comm. "We cannot hold them much longer." "Just a little more time," Hayes urged, though he was beginning to fear Parker's modifications wouldn't be ready before they were overwhelmed. Then Nova's voice came through the comm system. "Captain Hayes, can I talk to the Drax?" Hayes frowned in confusion. "Nova, I don't think." "Please," the child insisted. "I know something about them that might help." Against his better judgment, Hayes nodded to Olivia. "Open a channel." Nova's voice rang out across all frequencies. "Drax Fleet, this is Nova of the Veridan. I was on the scout ship you attacked. I know why you're here, and I know what you don't understand about us." There was no response, but the Drax attack seemed to slow slightly. "The life stone you seek doesn't work right for you, because you don't respect it," Nova continued. "My parents discovered why. It responds to harmony, not force. The more you take, the less effective it becomes." In engineering, Parker and Kellenar made a breakthrough. Instead of merging their technologies, they created a system where the Veridan deflectors amplified the human energy pulse in sequence. "Ready to test," Parker reported to Hayes. "But it's only got one shot before it burns out." "Wait for my signal," Hayes replied. The Drax ships had stopped firing, seemingly confused by Nova's message. Then, without warning, their largest vessel fired a massive energy beam directly at the U.S. horizon. "Now," Hayes shouted. Parker activated the combined weapon. A pulse of energy, invisible but powerful, shot out from the horizon and collided with the incoming Drax beam. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the energy beam turned back on itself, following the pulse to its source. The Drax ship's weapon system overloaded in a cascade of explosions that rippled across its hull. "It worked," Collins exclaimed. Nova continued speaking to the Drax. "See, force returns to force. But there is another way. We can show you how to use the life stone properly. You can have power without always needing more." The damaged Drax ship drifted, its weapons offline. The other Drax vessels held position, no longer firing, but not retreating either. After a tense minute, a harsh, mechanical voice responded for the first time. We listen. 2 weeks passed since the standoff with the Drax. The U.S. horizon remained in orbit around the gas giant's moon, now a center of unexpected diplomatic activity. Captain Hayes walked through the ship's corridors, still amazed by how much had changed in such a short time. He entered the conference room, where representatives from 3 species sat together. Nova was there too, looking stronger each day. The child now wore a special medal that combined symbols from both Earth and Veridan culture. The Drax mining colony is showing promising results, reported Zekval, pointing to data on the main screen. Their energy efficiency has improved by 60% using our refined methods. A Drax representative, taller than the others with metallic gray skin, nodded stiffly. The process requires more care but produces better results. This is acceptable. Hayes smiled slightly. The Drax were not friendly, exactly, but they were practical. Once shown that proper refinement of the life stone could provide more power while using less material, they had agreed to a trial program. Their natural drive for efficiency eventually overcame their preference for conquest. Earth Command has finally responded to our messages, Hayes announced to the group. They're sending a diplomatic team. They're very interested in establishing formal relations with both the Veridan and the Drax. High Elder Kartal, who had remained to oversee the negotiations, looked pleased. From enemies to allies in the span of a month, all because of a child and a ship of humans who refused to follow conventional wisdom. Nova smiled at this but looked sad too. I miss my parents, but I'm glad their research about the life stone is helping everyone now. Olivia, sitting beside Nova, gently squeezed the child's hand. The two had formed a strong bond that crossed the boundaries of their different species. We have recovered your parents' full research from the crashed ship, Zekval told Nova. Their work will be honored throughout Veridan space. Later that day, Dr. Wright completed her final checkup on Nova. Your heart is functioning perfectly, she told the child. Actually, it's working better than I expected. It's almost as if it's getting stronger by doing more. Like humans, Nova said thoughtfully, you do more with 1 heart than most Veridan do with 3. Dr. Wright smiled. It's not the number that matters. It's how you use what you have. That evening, Captain Hayes stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Ross joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Earth Command is talking about establishing a permanent diplomatic post here, Ross said, handing Hayes a cup. They're calling this region the 3-Heart Space in honor of Nova. Hayes took a sip of his coffee. Appropriate. Though I think the Drax might prefer a different name. They'll get used to it, Ross replied with a rare smile. They're pragmatic, if nothing else. The door opened, and Nova entered with Olivia. The child approached the viewport, eyes wide with wonder at the view of space. What will happen to me now? Nova asked quietly. Hayes knelt down to be at eye level with the child. That's up to you. You can return to Veridan space with High Elder Kartal. Or, Nova looked hopeful. Or you could come to Earth as the first Veridan ambassador, Hayes finished. Olivia has offered to be your guardian. Nova looked up at Olivia, then back to Hayes. But I only have 1 heart now. Will Earth people accept me? Earth has people of all kinds, Hayes said. What matters is not what you are, but who you are. Nova thought for a moment, then placed a hand over the single heart beating in the chest. I would like to see this Earth. To learn more about humans who can do so much with just 1 heart. As they stood together looking out at the stars, Hayes reflected on how differently this first contact might have gone. If they had followed protocol, if they had been afraid of the unknown, if they had not tried to save a dying alien child, this peaceful moment would never have happened. Sometimes, Hayes thought, being called Heartless wasn't an insult if it meant having the courage to use your 1 heart well.